Good afternoon, everyone. Again, we want to welcome you and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Malibu Dark Sky Ordinance for Commercial, Institutional, Recreational, and Multifamily. My name is Yolanda Bundy, and I have with us also Tyler Eaton from the Planning Department to help us with the presentation. Next slide, please. The dark skies compliance for Malibu is a direction for our city council, and the deadline is coming fast. It will apply for commercial, institutional, and residential properties. The deadline will be October 15 of 2022. Next slide. But what is lighting pollution? Lighting pollution is the excessive or poor use of outdoor lighting, and it also is the waste energy that disrupt the nature of the wildlife. It contributes to the increase in carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. Lighting pollution affects the night sky up to 150 miles from the source. Next slide, please. This is an example in a comparison of the Great Los Angeles blackout of 1994. You can see the normal light pollution at one end and the other one when the blackout happened with no light pollution. Next slide. We understand that this ordinance cannot fix everything. And again, I remind you, light pollution can travel 150 miles from its source. Next slide. But what this ordinance will prevent, for example, the twin towers of the light, the twin towers of light have caused the death of over 1.2 million migratory birds by disorienting them and causing them to fly in circles until they are exhausted and they are dead. Next slide, please. Another example that will for prevention. Studies have shown that the color changing lighting installed in the spectacular sundial bridge were determined to have reduced the Sacramento Raven salmon prawn population by 90% due to the disorientation and death resulting from starvation. Next slide. This ordinance will fix the glare and the environmental light pollution. Next slide. This ordinance will also help us fix the glare and the light trespass. Next slide. Just to go over in some outdoor lighting basics. Lighting at higher angles is often the glare zone and cause light trespass onto adjacent properties. So this is what we need to avoid. Next slide. 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting. Lighting should have a clear purpose. Light should be directed only where needed. Light should not be brighter than necessary. Light should be only when it's useful, and it needs to use warmer, lighter colors when it's possible. Next slide. What is the purpose of the Malibu Dark Sky Ordinance? The purpose is to preserve Malibu's rural character and quality of life, protecting the wildlife and the habitats from light pollution. It is also to preserve an enjoyment of the nighttime sky and promotes the city's goal of conserving energy and the natural resources. Next slide. Here are the few of the general requirements of this ordinance and why it's important for all of you. The maximum Kelvin temperature needs to be 3,000 Kelvin. Seasonal lighting can be over 3,000 Kelvin, but it's only allowed from November 15 to January 15. Light trespass levels not exceeding the following maximum allowed light trespass from any property into any residential property, areas or public viewing areas. Next slide. Other requirements of this ordinance is specific that affect the commercial businesses, the institution, and the recreation is that all lighting needs to be fully shielded and directed downward. During curfew, the light needs to be extinguished by 11 p.m. or close of business, whichever is later, except for lighting that is activated by motion sensor, which can be extinguished in 10 minutes after activation. Just a reminder, ATMs and exterior access ways for hotels, motels, rooms are not subject to this curfew. If in scenic areas, any outdoor lighting fixtures, such as walkways, security lighting, and driveways, are not to exceed the 850 lumens. Other commercial lighting equipment is limited and must comply with the current energy codes and the California Building Code standards. Multifamily properties must meet the 850 lumens. Next slide. Lighting around the perimeter of the site, except as required for security lighting purposes, is prohibited. Next slide. So let's just go over in a good reminder of a definition and what is full shielding. Full shielding is when light can only travel downward or outward at an angle or less than the horizontal. This ordinance does not allow partial shielding and does not allow unshielding. Next slide. Here's an example of partial shielding and fully shielding. You can see the glare of the lighting, and again, just a reminding, this ordinance, the requirements needs to be full shielding. Next slide. So what does it mean to have a 3000 Kelvin? 3000 Kelvin lighting tends to be more warm on the spectrum, and that's the requirements of this ordinance. Next slide. A few area lighting examples of fixtures that are provided, so you have a better understanding of the type of lighting fixtures that are required and allowed under this ordinance. For area lighting, full shielding, downward lighting, sometimes it's called shoebox style. In addition, they need to comply with the California Green Building Code and the energy. The one on the middle is less than the horizontal and is not filled. The other two are not allowed. Next slide. Another example for building mounted lighting that are full shield. These are some typical examples, and we will provide you with a link and also how to go about the process. Next slide. We also wanted to provide you with the post-mounted lighting examples and the typical lighting that we have seen that qualifies and it is allowed under this ordinance. Next slide. Polar lighting is, again, that is fully shielding. Usually we see the lights are at the top and shining downward. Next slide. Very few outdoor lightings will not pass. Just remember, a lantern lamp style and flood lights are not allowed. And those are the examples that you see in there. Next slide. It is strictly prohibited to have landscape up lights as the example below of flood lights. And when we want under the ordinance, this light needs to be avoided. Next slide. There have been some questions regarding string lighting. String lighting may be used for outdoor dining areas and must be 3,000 Kelvin or less. A reminder, when you have this string lighting, they must be turned off after no occupant is around the area and you're not serving dinner. Next slide. These are a few examples of our wall-mounted outdoor lighting that can be used. Next slide. Another more examples of, we're trying to provide you with as much graphics and examples of the full shielding so you guys have an idea on how to go about this ordinance. This is a pulse light that can be replaced with a variety of designs and shapes that can be accomplished in the ordinance. Next slide. The basics principles for replacing the lighting to be in compliance under the dark sky ordinance are they need to maintain a color of 3,000 Kelvin. And also in some instances, they have a limitation of 850 lumens. The dark sky luminaires can be found on websites or on some lighting showrooms. Start seeking the help of your design professionals. Also, the sales agencies that can provide you with guidance of the type of lighting fixtures that you need. For this ordinance, we will require that your design professionals get involved. Next slide. Other basic principles for replacing the lighting. All lights must be turned at 11 p.m. unless people are present and must be ceased 10 minutes after the area is vacated. Motion control lighting is also allowed at building entrances and driveway egress points. Next slide. So how do you go about finding the proper lighting? Lighting sales representatives and commercial lighting websites can provide you with many options and necessary technical and photometric information. Other resources might include manufacturers. We have included a web site that you can visit so it can help you through the replacement and the new construction of your project. Next slide. Highly is recommended that you hire a professional design to do this work. There is permits that will be required for all new work. You need to obtain the permits. We need to review the plans and a specification demonstrating compliance not only with this lighting ordinance, but it also all the applicable codes, all the standards that are required. Photometric calculation will be required. And more detailed requirements are available on our City Malibu website. Next slide. So how do you work with your, or who do you hire as your professional work? You need the design assistance from professional lighting designers that can help you provide us with complete plans and photometric calculations for the new work. And so you enter into compliance with this ordinance. The installation of this lighting will require a permit and needs to be done by a licensed professional, a licensed electrical contractor that can help you through the process. As mentioned before, it's very important that you guys remember that not only needs to comply with the dark sky ordinance, but also with the California Energy Code, the Electrical Code, and the California Green Building Code. Inspections will be required and inspections will be done. Next slide. But how do you go about submitting? And I have Tyler from the planning department that will go over the first phase of the submittal. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Yolanda. So as Yolanda mentioned, There is a planning phase with this. If you've ever submitted something with the city, there's always two phases in an application. There's the planning phase and then the building safety phase to pull the actual building permit. So for the planning phase, which is kind of your step one, our application is available online at malibucity.org/darksky. The application is a packet which contains some documentation that you'll need to fill out. Some of the information will need to be filled out by the contractor or electrical engineer that you work with. And to accompany this packet should be your outdoor lighting plan. Next slide, please. Here's an example of an outdoor lighting plan. On the left is the site plan, which here also acts as the photometric. So your photometric should be done by a licensed professional, as Yolanda mentioned, whether that be a lighting engineer or a certified electrical contractor. The photometric is how we measure the light trespass or spillover onto adjacent properties. It's hard to see there, but those little black and red dots are actually foot candle measurements, showing us how much light will be emitted at any given point. So your property can only emit 0.25 foot candles at the property line, and if adjacent to a residential property or environmentally sensitive habitat, it can only emit 0.1 foot candle at the property line. The site plan also labels where the fixtures will be placed on the property. So as shown to the bottom right are photographic examples of the fixtures this site is proposing to use. They label those fixtures to show us where on the site plan these will go. Some applicants have provided us with some manufacturer specification sheets, and that is helpful too. We just need to know what the fixture looks like and be sure you're not exceeding the 3000 Kelvin color temperature or the 850 lumen limit if it's applicable. And sometimes you can't fit all that information on the plan, so the manufacturer sheets are helpful in your submittal packet. Next slide, please.
And here I'll take it over, Tyler. Thank you. The next portion is, so after you got an approval from the planning department, it is the building and safety department process for the review of those documents. We have this outline requirements that are very similar to the planning department on the type of plans that we're going to be reviewing and requirement. As mentioned before, we are going to be a requirement for compliance with the California Electrical Code, the California Green Building Code, the California Energy Code. Tyler also mentioned the manufacturer specification and cut sheets, why they were so important for us to have. And that is information that we need to know for all outdoor lighting and fixtures. That is one of our requirements. Additional requirement for building and safety is also elevation drawings, so we can see the location and the mounting heights for those outdoor lighting fixtures that are going to be proposed new. Photometric study, and I know I keep on stating this item. Photometric study, it measures the splash of lights to adjacent parcels. Photometric plan is done by specific software, and it's also done by a professional designer, usually electrical engineers, lighting engineers. So that is really important. That is a must requirement for you to provide for the review. After the review have passed the planning department approval, the building and safety approval, then we issue the permit to an electrical contractor, and then we can, after the installation, our inspectors will go out there and do the final visit for the inspections. I know there's a lot of steps that you need to take, and you may have a lot of questions. Next slide, please. We urge you, we are coming close to the deadline for this ordinance. As mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, October 15 is the deadline. This ordinance has been in work since 2018. So make every effort and reach out to us so we can help you on the next steps and guide you. We have recorded this presentation, and previously during the month of June, there was another presentation done by Tyler and I, and that also is on our webpage for you guys to visit. We have handouts, we have prepared the packages for every submittal. Talking to our city manager, we know that we will try to make this expedited review so we can get you in compliance, but don't wait until the last minute, and we are really running very close to the deadline. And that's all I have. We would like to take some of your questions, but we also would like to follow up with all of you. If you're a manager of a commercial business or an owner, please let us know so we can contact you and provide you with more information or a specific meeting that is more tailored to your situation. So we will take questions if you have any for us. If you can please raise your hand, and then I will call a person at a time. Tyler, you would like to mention anything?
No, thank you, Yolanda. It looks like Laura has her hand up, and Catherine now as well.
Okay. We'll see Laura first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. In our property, we have a sidewalk around the perimeter of the buildings. We have multiple buildings. And I wasn't quite sure about pathway lights. After the fire, we lost all of our pathway lights, and we've been waiting to replace them. And money is an issue, but are pathway lights allowed?
Yeah, so so certain perimeter lighting isn't allowed, so I have to like see what your site plan looked like. But if it's used for security, it would be allowed. It may need to be on a timer. So motion sensor, so when it's activated when someone is on that side of your property, and then would have to extinguish after 10 minutes. But if we can deem it as necessary security lighting, yes, it would be allowed.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
and just to add to that, Laura, if it's on the path of travel where people need to egress and exit, it is allowed also. There isn't a specific for the activation, but as I say, you may want to leave us your name, and we can call you and try to help you and guide you as much as we can.
okay.
Yeah, we can walk you through like a maybe you can point us out on a map what area you're talking about, and then we can be more specific what parts of the code would apply.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we have security personnel that walk in the middle of the night. I mean, there's people that use it. So I was just concerned if it's motion sensor, then we're gonna have lights coming on and off all night. And anyway, and same thing with parking lot lights. Do those have to also extinguish motion sensor, or can they stay illumined all night?
The way the code reads, if it's for a driveway for egress and ingress points, then they can remain on for safety purposes. But there could be, depending on how big your parking lot is, there could be parts of the drive or the parking lot that needs to be extinguished at close of business.
Okay.
Or 11 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Catherine? Parker, would you unmute Catherine?
She should see a pop-up asking to unmute.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you very much for what you've put together here. So I have a question regarding pavilions in our shopping center, and they close at midnight, and the parking lot lights typically stay on until midnight just because of the safety reasons. The store also has storefront windows. So we are in a residential area, but the store itself has their lights on all night long, and that emits light that is unavoidable. It emits outward, not downward. So question about that. And then ATM machines have specific lighting requirements that those have to stay on, and that also emits light. Just trying to determine how to kind of work around some of these parameters.
Yeah, and so we, like we mentioned to Laura, and we will answer your questions right now, but it will be incredibly helpful if we can meet with you and go over a lot of the requirements. Well, as I stated in the presentation, the person that you hire to do this type of work must have a full understanding of the ordinance, in addition with the requirements of the code. But just to answer your question, and now I just started, and then Tyler can help me with this. All lighting must be turned off at 11 unless our people are present. So I don't think that you need to turn off the lights at 11 p.m. since you close until midnight.
Okay.
Okay, you want to take the interior lighting, Tyler?
Yeah, I was just going to add that interior lighting isn't covered in this ordinance, but based on the exterior lighting, the Pavilions Shopping Center should be much, forcing extinguish at 12 o'clock should hopefully improve the glare that they emit, and also they still have to meet the TRAS requirements, meaning that hopefully all the light that they emit does not surpass their property boundaries. So this ordinance will help reduce the glare, but like as you mentioned with the indoor lighting, unfortunately, some of that might remain.
Okay.
And then regarding the ATMs, lighting on NTMs are not, because they're used at any time, they are not subject to the curfew. Usually the light at the ATM is not as excessive as in other locations. So that's how the ordinance is stated. You want to add anything on that, Tyler?
No, yeah, the ATMs are a tricky one because there's so security reasons behind that lighting.
One more follow-up question. We have a 2-story building that has 2 stairwells that we do keep a light on overnight, mainly because we've had an issue with homeless. But that is a LED light that is specifically pointed downward, even though it's a hanging light, and it's shielded by the roof slant. But for safety reasons, I'm concerned about us having to turn that off as well. All the other lights do go off at 11. It's just the parking lot pavilions stay on until midnight. And then I have these stairwells that are lightly lit.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say about that is like we said before, some security lighting it will definitely work with you on that, but the bulbs themselves still have to meet the 3000 Kelvin. So it sounds like from your example that they're fully shielded, so that's great, but you may want to look into replacing those bulbs with 3000 Kelvin bulbs. And then in terms of keeping them on, we can work on your application specifically when that comes in and determine, if it's security lighting, and we can talk about the different types that will be allowed to remain.
I'm fairly certain that those bulbs are even less than the 3000. I think that they're like a 8-watt LED. They're very minimal. It's just enough so that someone doesn't trip and fall up
So
and down.
when we go through that review, that's important information that you can share with us.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is outreach, send the information out to the whole community. There's a lot of work ahead of us, and I know there is a lot of reviews, the planning review, the building and safety review. We're trying to just tailor in a way that is not put so much burden on our businesses. I know that after COVID, we had a lot of business suffering. So we just want to make sure that we're there for you and guiding you and working with you what you have existing. But the whole intent, as we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, is trying to make the efforts to have a Malibu dark skies, and that this is an ordinance that is a mandate from our city council. So, but we are here to help you all. And we can set up specific meetings so we can guide you and tailor that information and work with you for each one of your properties.
Who do we reach out to set up a meeting?
At the end of the presentation, there was two web pages, mplanning@malibucity.org or mbuilding@malibucity.org, or you can just call me or Tyler, and we will try to facilitate that for you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Didn't mean to take up so much time. Thank you.
No time, and I'm appreciative that we're
Yeah.
talking, and you're
Those
asking
are-
a question.
Those are all great questions, so we appreciate it.
Does anybody else has any questions? We also, just a reminder, we have called most of the commercial properties asking to see if they need any help. So we will start calling and reaching out again to all of you. So please take advantage of that. We really want to work with you, and we are very thankful. I know not a lot of businesses showed up today, but we're hoping that together we can make this a successful ordinance just for the good of our community. And so we can continue working together. Anything for you, Tyler?
No, that's it. Thank you, Yolanda. Yeah, we mentioned this in the residential. I just want to kind of reemphasize the string lights. A lot of I don't know who's on the call today in terms of businesses, but if there's any restaurants, that is part of the ordinance that needs to go into compliance today. Is the string lights. So if you they're only allowed in occupied dining areas, as Yolanda mentioned. So when there's no longer anybody there, they must be turned off. That's kind of one of the biggest complaints that we're receiving at this point.
Please reach out to us. We want to help you. We're here for you, and we thank you for all that you guys have done, and we look forward to continue working with you. So we will post this presentation on our webpage. It has been recorded. And Catherine, we look forward to meeting with you. And Laura, if you have any more questions, and Dana, you're here. And so anybody that is here that wants to reach out or need help, we are here to serve you. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. And we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, everyone.